Bora ver aí o beat que mudou o hip hop pra sempre. Coisa linda, hein? Essas coisas a gente adora.
This drum beat right here changed hip hop forever.
Drummer.
Not just hip hop, but it changed pop, rock, and dance music too.
Pô, da hora esse som do mob aí, não conhecia não, hein?
Drum break from Funky Drummer by James
Ah
Brown
lá, falei que era funk drummer.
has been the basis for songs across genre, making it one of the most popular samples of all time. But there are millions of drum beats to sample out there. So we want to know, why do so many artists choose this one? In fact, when it was released in 1970, Funky Drummer didn't even crack the top 50 charts. It wasn't until 15 years later
Até os DJs entrarem na cena.
that the drum beat started appearing in hundreds of songs.
So, was it all a coincidence, or was Clyde Stubblefield's drumming just that good?
This story
É foda pra caralho. Puta groove, né?
is about how a 20-second drum loop became one of the most popular sounds in music history.
LA and I are going to take what we've learned and make our own song using the Funky Drummer beat. But before we do that, we want to discover what made this beat so special in the first place.
As Questlove said in a 2011 interview,
Cash Love, quem não sabe, batalha do The Roots.
Funky Drummer has done miracles for hip hop, adding,
When you talk about the most perfect beat, it's not even that Funky Drummer wins in a technical aspect, but in an artistic aspect, it's hands down the most perfect beat you can loop. Everyone I know as a producer that's gotten their start in hip hop production, they all have their story about the first time they heard Funky Drummer.
Mano, fudido que ele falou, cara, é isso. Eu também, velho. Primeira vez que eu vi Funk Drummer, mano, foi foda, velho. Porque, tipo, eu tava ouvindo os bagulho de James Brown e eu realmente não sabia dessa história. Tipo, eu já tinha ouvido tanto o loop do Funk Drummer em outras músicas do rap, que, mano, começo, né? E sem saber que aquilo era Funk Drummer, que quando eu ouvi o Funk Drummer, eu ouvi o beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, get it. Tipo, nossa, caralho, mano, esse beat é da tal música. Nossa, o cara sampleou aqui, pá, vamos ver. Daí, descobri Funk Drummer.
the story of Funky Drummer starts with the Funky Drummer himself, the late Clyde Stubblefield.
Born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the self-taught Stubblefield served as Brown's drummer from 1965 to 1971 and appeared on tracks like Cold Sweat, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and of course, Funky Drummer.
To learn more about Clyde Stubblefield, I talked to Joey B. Banks, a drummer from Madison, Wisconsin, who was mentored by Stubblefield himself.
Que foda, mano. Olha isso, velho.
How did you meet Clyde Stubblefield?
When I was 15 years old, I started hanging out and doing local jam sessions in the Madison area. I just sat in and jammed, and he was there, and he approached me, and he's like, you got it, man, you got it. You keep going, you keep doing what you're doing. You know, he always, from that point on in my life, he was just kind of an advocate, you know, for a young black drummer, you know, because there was only like 2 of us in the whole city of Madison.
Ó, que foda, o cara. Além de ter criado o maior sample do hip hop aí, era uma pessoa, pelo jeito, massa. de
What made
conviver.
Clyde Stubblefield so special as a drummer, and what should people remember about his drumming?
I think his biggest influence obviously was the originality of his music. I mean, his beat. His beat was like, before him, nobody had ever heard anything like his beat.
Muito groove, mano.
and I
Muito
think-
groove, velho.
His pocket, which is unparalleled, is just, you know, most of the recordings you hear with James Brown, we're not using click tracks. It's just solid on the mark. Everybody
Os caras não usavam nem clique, velho. O cara já tinha o metrônomo com ele já. Aqui, ó. Pá. Acho que é por isso que esse cara gosta tanto de samplear. Porque, querendo ou não, o rap é uma música eletrônica, né? Então, tipo, a música eletrônica, ela é quantizada, né? Ela toca certinho. Você consegue mudar, assim, fazer ela tocar meio fora do tempo, igual o J. Dilla fez. Mas ela é meio quantizada. Então, o loop do funk drummer, tipo, o bagulho era cravado, velho. Mesmo o cara tocar sem usar clique. Olha que louco. O bagulho era cravado.
He would
Fudido.
come in,
Acho que daí fazia tudo sentido. Os caras falaram, mano, esse loop tá cravado. É esse mesmo que vai usar.
lay down his drum tracks. The band would come in, lay down their track after.
Olha lá.
That's how Clyde worked.
Fudido, mano. Fudido. Ele gravava primeiro. O cara era o próprio clique.
Drummer was made on November 20th, 1969, at Cincinnati's King Studios towards the end of an exhausting tour.
Clyde Stubblefield was only 18 at the time and said his part was something he put together to just pass time away.
In fact, even as the beat grew in popularity, Stubblefield wasn't the biggest fan. He described it in a 1994 interview as boring, really boring, and so simple, so blah.
Still,
Que foda.
the 20-second solo toward the end of Funky Drummer would be immortalized for decades to come. But why?
To understand how Funky Drummer became so popular, we need to talk about the beginnings of hip-hop music. It all
Provavelmente os caras pegavam aqui, ó. Já tava com o mesmo disco do outro lado. E voltava o disco. E ia fazendo beat jungle. Ali, ó.
started in New York City during the 1970s, specifically in the South Bronx, where people got together at block parties to listen to music and dance. And the music was led by an MC on the mic and a DJ on the turntables. DJs like Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash would play funk and soul records for the crowd.
Aí, ó.
They quickly learned that the drum breaks were the most danceable parts of a song. So, they innovated by playing the same record
isso
on
mesmo,
two
beat jungle.
turntables. That way, the
Gente, eu não sei, eu não adivinhei nada, viu? Isso aí é muito tempo a gente vê no vídeo, documentários e tal. Tem uma série na Netflix, Get Down, que mostra bem isso. É muita coisa de assistindo, né? Eles só estão, acho que, reiterando isso.
DJ could rewind one record
Reafirmando,
while the other
né?
played to create an infinite drum loop.
Olha lá, isso mesmo.
DJs began crate digging for funk and soul records with danceable drum loops, and because the loops were instrumental, it gave space for MCs to rap on top of the beat. When hip-hop artists began recording their own songs, this practice continued, and sampling became one of the foundations of hip-hop music.
Mostragem, né? O sampling, né? Samplear. Aqui no Brasil virou verbo. Fudido, né? Samplear.
To get a better understanding, I sat down with Vandy C., a DJ and producer from New York City who got his start during the 1980s.
The original hip hop producers, most were DJ. And that is because the DJ knew how to control the crowd music. So I think from a DJ side, if I'm looking at the music to make a beat,
Nossa, é massa a gente trazer pra quem é DJ e produtor, que não é o meu caso. Eu não tenho uma rotina grande de produção, assim, tal. Então, sempre quando eu vou... Tipo, eu não produzo todo dia e tal. Eu produzo quando me dá vontade mesmo, assim, tal. Então, tipo, sempre se atentar nisso, né? Tipo, o DJ que tá no controle da multidão. Então, sempre na hora de for produzir, lembrar disso. Tipo, porra, mano, será que... A música que você tá criando, será que ela vai arrastar? Ela vai criar a sensação que você quer pra pista? Você quer que a galera exploda? Ou você quer que a galera viaje e tal? A importância de ser um DJ também, produtor.
I'm listening to the track, but I'm not just listening to the beat. I'm listening to maybe the guitar. I'm listening to other parts because as sampling came in, we might take the beat from this,
Isso.
the shout James Brown said from the very beginning, the guitar riff. As we listen, we go, oh, that riff, and then we'll pull that riff out, and then and then you're just basically making this gumbo of what your creativity will offer, and then you put it together.
James Brown knew that artists were looking for drum breaks to sample.
And in 1986, he released a compilation album of his old tracks called In the Jungle Groove. On the first side of the record was Funky Drummer, and on side 2 was the Funky Drummer drum solo looped for 3 minutes.
Oh, que louco, mano. Que louco, velho.
That
Aí
same year,
sim.
3 hip-hop songs were released that sampled the Funky Drummer loop.
It's a Demo, South Bronx, and Eric B. is President.
But there's no rhymes left. I hurry up because the cut'll make him bleed to death. But he's kicking it.
This changed everything, and the Funky Drummer break became a go-to for hip-hop producers looking for a steady groove.
Let me ask you about like Funky Drummer specifically. So it's one of the most sampled songs in hip hop history,
Talvez a mais sampleada da história do hip hop.
which you know. How did you find it?
I found it the way that most
Quem será que foi o primeiro, né? Primeiro que sampleou.
DJs
Ah, deve estar naquelas músicas ali, né? Eric B, pá.
found beats, and that is in our parents' record stack. That's how it started. If anybody tells you anything else, they're lying.
By the end of the 90s, the drum break had been sampled by artists in other genres too, like Sinead O'Connor and George Michael.
Essa é clássica.
Funky Drummer became a popular tool for artists making breakbeat dance music. Producers would speed up the break, like in this song by Aphex Twin.
Ficou tipo meio que o hardcore, né? Breakbeat, né? Breakbeat mesmo.
It was even used in the theme song for the Powerpuff Girls.
Ó. Lembrando que essa não é o Homem Break, né? O Homem Break, o Funk Drummer é bem diferente. O Homem Break já é aquele drum and bass, já é aquele... Funk Drummer já é, não é? Já é diferente.
It's important to mention that some people mix up Funky Drummer with another
Olha lá.
popular drum
Caralho, mano. Que fita.
sample called the Amen Break. That break comes from the 1969 track
Cara, essa confusão deve acontecer muito, né? Porque outros vídeos que eu já vi do pessoal falando sobre o Funk Drummer ou sobre o Homem Break, tipo, se é um vídeo sobre o Homem Break, eles explicam a diferença com o Funk Drummer. Se é um vídeo sobre o Funk Drummer, eles explicam a diferença com o Homem Break.
Amen Brother by the soul band The Winstons.
Olha lá.
Both breaks were featured in the compilation album Ultimate Breaks and Beats. When sped up in some dance music tracks, the
Drum and
two
bass.
breaks can sound similar.
Olha o som que eles pegaram ainda. Cara, esse som do LTD Bunking, mano, é muito bom. Atlantis. Mano, esse som é foda, cara. Porra, eles são bem de referência, hein? Acho que eu sou inscrito já no canal deles, não sei. Mas vou escrever. Vou me inscrever se não for. Porra, a referência que eles usaram
Music
pro
tracks, the
Amen
two
Break.
breaks
Porra,
can sound
clássico do
similar.
Jungle. Atmosfera.
Why do you think Funky Drummer specifically became so popular from like a beat-led sample standpoint?
Funky Drummer works because of the way he's using the space. It's not a whole bunch of drums going on, and not a bunch of parts going on. But the ghost notes,
Dando
ghost notes
groove na
add so much
parada.
flavor to whatever's happening.
É o
you
molho.
know?
É o molho. O famoso molho.
It's like that special little
Yeah.
seasoning on top, or it's the sprinkles, or it's the whatever.
Tipo, ela não é tipo. É tipo. É a Ghost Note mesmo ali, ó. É a mão leve na caixa.
It's the
Esse é o molho.
Emerald bam, right?
Olha lá.
I want to break down what makes this solo what it is. First, the left hand.
Questlove said in an interview, Stubblefield has a marksman's left hand unlike any other drummer in the 20th century, adding, the thing that defines him, that sets him apart from other drummers, are his grace notes, which are sort of like the condiments of what spices up the main focus.
É isso, mano. Que da hora essa definição. Tipo, os grooves são tão bem feitos, assim, tipo, essas ghost notes, assim, tipo, elas são tão bem feitas que ela dá mais destaque para as batidas principais. Pra batida pá, da caixa. Tá, tá. O ghost note, ele realça a parada. Tipo assim, como se a batida principal fosse os temperos da comida e o ghost note ali tá o groovinho, é o sal, que tá realçando tudo.
This is the snare hits on
Fudido.
2 and 4. The ghost notes are played in between those main hits on 2 and 4. It's a groove without any ghost notes. Now here's the groove with the ghost notes. The other thing about the beat is that it's bare.
Nossa, muito foda, velho.
Hi-hat,
Kick, snare.
that's all he's playing. That open space is why so many artists have sampled it, because it offers so much room to play around with. Third, and lastly, his repetition. He doesn't deviate from the pattern and maintains it for 8 bars, following the instructions Brown gave him.
You don't have to do no soloing, bro. Just keep what you got. Don't try to lose, because it's a mother.
What do you think made Clyde Stubblefield's drumming like a really good match for hip hop?
As much as Clyde made hip hop made Clyde, if that makes sense, in terms of the timing. Because what happened, in my estimation, is had it not have been for the grassroots DJs pursuing beats, his transcended the regular beats. So all of a sudden, it was like the cheat code to move a crowd is to hit his beat. You know what I mean? So Funky Drummer became bigger than just the beat itself. It became like this movement.
According to Who Sampled, Funky Drummer has been sampled over 1,700
Nossa
times.
senhora.
But
Isso,
even though
isso
Clyde
só que tá no Who Sample, né? Porque não tá.
Stubblefield laid the groundwork for
Fora
all
que os
of
caras
this
devem estar usando agora. Nesse exato momento que o vídeo está sendo gravado, os caras devem estar fazendo um beat usando Funky Drummer.
music, he didn't get the credit he deserved.
É, isso
The
é foda.
reality is, he never saw
Isso
any
é foda.
royalties from the songs that sampled his drum part, because he wasn't credited as a songwriter. James Brown was.
Pô, ainda bem que isso tá mudando.
Although Stubblefield tried to capitalize on his resurgence in hip-hop with solo albums like The Revenge of the Funky Drummer, he would never be able to truly live off the success of his beloved drum break. But that
Ó, mano, que louco esse álbum aí. Vou procurar sobre.
doesn't mean that artists influenced by Stubblefield and his work didn't look out for him where they could. Shortly after Prince passed away in 2016, it was revealed that the Purple Rain icon paid about $80,000 in the drummer's medical costs, as Stubblefield had survived cancer in 2000 and coped with kidney diseases since 2002.
What mattered most to Stubblefield wasn't the money, but being credited and recognized for his work.
I'm
Que foda.
the world samplers, #1 samplers drummer, so hey, I haven't got a penny for it yet though, but
Nossa,
Dude
que
is
foda, velho.
super humble,
E o cara riu da
super
situação.
kind, loved everybody, signed his autographs. Clyde
Mas é isso, cara. Cara, talvez. Parece que sempre é assim, né? Os gênios morrem pobres, né? Em relação ao capitalismo, né? Em relação ao que o capitalismo nos fala, o que é rico, o que é pobre, não sei o quê, o cara morre pobre mesmo. Mas, porra, o cara tá marcado na história, né? Isso não tem dinheiro que pague, vai ser apagada. A história não se apaga, né? Já era. Essa é a história, o cara é a história da parada.
Stubblefield, peace and love. I mean,
Ele tá com um pingente de uma folha de maconha ali, é
everybody
isso?
signed his
Ele era
autographs.
maconheiro?
Clyde Stubblefield, peace and love.
Ó, os pai
I
é
mean,
mesmo, hein? Bom demais.
he was just a genuinely good guy, and in some ways good to a fault.
Although Stubblefield passed away from kidney failure in 2017, his legacy as a drummer still lives on, with Funky Drummer continuing to be an integral part of that.
The drum break still gets sampled, with everyone from Nicki Minaj to Ed Sheeran's shirt sleeves using Stubblefield's drum part. There's even a documentary in the works about Stubblefield's impact called Give the Drummer Some, which he was able to be a part of before he passed.
In 2011,
massa, mano.
Stubblefield got on stage with Chuck D and The Roots to perform Fight the Power on the Late Night Show.
Nossa, fudido, cara. Que isso, cara. Olha isso.
An eclectic method.
Fight the Power é o beat Funky Drummer, né?
The copyright criminals.
Normally, Chuck D would rap over a sample, but that night, he had the real Funky Drummer by his side.
Now that we've learned about Funky Drummer, LA and I are going to attempt to make our own song inspired by the Funky Drummer sample. Okay, this is the approach that I would take. I feel like we could totally take,
Será que vai dar bom?
like, do you listen to Pink Panthers, or do you know who she is? Okay, Pink Panthers is like this. She blew up on TikTok. She's like a UK drum and bass pop girly. She's very talented. She's like songwriter, and has a very gentle, floaty voice.
I want to do a Funky Drummer / Pink Pantheress / house type vibe.
Que isso, os caras vão ir longe. Que isso? Tá parecendo drum and bass.
Without Stubblefield, it's safe to say that hip hop wouldn't be what it is.
Não mesmo, jamais.
His drumming provided the foundation for a genre that still continues to borrow from him. And even though he never truly had the chance to reap the reward of that, there's no denying the mark he left behind.
É, não tem como. O cara é a história da parada, velho. Não tem mais esse... Mano, ninguém apaga isso.
Before you go, I want to let you know about Fight the Power, How Hip Hop Changed the World, a new PBS series hosted by hip hop legend
Oh,
Chuck
que
D.
massa.
It's about how hip hop became a global movement that spoke truth to power. Check out the link in the description below and let them know Soundfield sent you.
Ô, louco, será que é free essa parada? Vou deixar aqui pra assistir depois. Fudido, vou me inscrever nesse canal aí, Soundfield, que eu não conhecia, simplesmente adorei. Massa demais.